Hi, and welcome back to Jen and Dan's Natural Healing with Plants, the go-to podcast for holistic health seekers looking to harness the power of nature for health and healing. I'm Jen. I'm a passionate health educator, a whole food, plant-based culinary coach, and a master herbalist. And I'm here with Dan, an exercise specialist and a wonderful master herbalist. Together, we dive into the world of natural healing, bringing a wealth of knowledge and practical advice. We draw from both traditional wisdom and modern science with herbs and foods to help you achieve optimal health. So, the topic today is one of my very favorite herbs and foods. I use this at least once every day, and that is ginger. But we're going to talk about it in a different way. A lot of people think of ginger when they think of like stomach problems, morning sickness, motion sickness, and things like that. But I don't use ginger for any of those things. I use it for totally different things. And Dan shared a study with me this weekend that linked it to something completely wasn't even on my radar. So kick us off, Dan.
Yeah, I was doing some research because I'm always trying to help myself and my clients if they have problems with their cardiovascular system. I don't know, I've always fixate on the cardio system because it's still killing most of us. Let's just be honest.
Right.
So I was doing some research this weekend and I already knew that ginger was good for the cardiovascular system, but there's new research now showing that it can help support your cholesterol and actually lower inflammation. That's what we talk about a lot. It's not just me and Jennifer, but there are a lot of scientific articles now talking about low-grade inflammation in the body is the driver of most of our lifestyle diseases. And it's linked to what we eat, is linked to our stress. So things, and we don't, I know we had this policy, we don't use herbs like take the serve for that and don't do anything else. That's not how I teach, but I use herbs as supporting players with people.
I love that phrase.
They're very powerful. They're very powerful.
Yes.
I've never had one client that his blood pressure was up, and the only thing he's willing to do was take the blood circulation formula from Christopher and the Hawthorne berry syrup. It lowered his blood pressure 30 points. So I
Yeah.
never, sell herbs short.
Mhm.
So, you'd be better off using the herb if that's all you're going to do, I think. So my point is, this study is a double-blind study. This one really caught my attention.
Mhm.
They gave the people 3 grams a day, which is a decent amount of ginger. I think it was powder form in capsules.
Yes. Yeah, it ended up being about the equivalent of an inch knob of ginger.
Okay, so an inch a day.
Mhm.
And it was 6 weeks. And the end result was they had lower triglycerides, lower total cholesterol. It improved their LDL and it improved their HDL cholesterol. And that's the only thing they did. They
Right.
didn't exercise them, they didn't change their diet. This is what I love because think about if you change your diet and you exercise and you added ginger.
Right. Yeah, I can't
So
even imagine what how great it would be.
they also lower their blood pressure
Hmm.
and reduce inflammation and it helped with their blood sugar. And we talk about you telling me that 95% of people are metabolically unwell.
Yeah, in the United States. Yeah,
That's
93%.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that means 7% if you follow their standards, which actually we would probably use a little stricter standards for metabolic health, so it's probably even less than that. Yeah, that's insane. We're a very sick country.
And that's why when we get older, say in 50s, hell, even 40s and up, we start having problems like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attacks, and strokes. It's
Yeah,
because our metabolism, it's because we have a low level inflammation, our blood sugar is not perfect, our
right.
cholesterol is up. But the good news is you can reverse this with lifestyle and herbs, and you can live into old age and lower your risk of developing these diseases. That's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning to let people know you don't have to be a statistic.
Right. Right. And it's not all just aging,
No,
right?
no.
There's so many things you can do for your own health. Yeah. Yeah. I mentioned in the beginning, I use ginger. I never used ginger for heart health before. I never realized, I should have realized, it lowers inflammation. Hence, it would help with blood, um, anything circulation related. However, I always used it as an anti-inflammatory. I think I've said this on the podcast before. When my daughter had braces, we would fix cup of ginger tea. We would have hot ginger tea in the car, and she'd go get her braces tightened, and then she would drink that ginger tea on her way back to school, or it was usually school. And she never sore. She never had soreness from tightening her braces. And I don't know about you, but I had braces, and every time, your teeth would hurt probably for a day or two. She never had that pain. And I
Wow.
really attribute that to the ginger. Of course, we do include ginger in lots of things, but it's because it reduces that inflammation. It's for me, it's wonderful for pain relief too. I know you said you don't use it in that manner, but sometimes I do use ginger for acute conditions like pain. And one of the biggest things for me, unrelated to our topic today, is ginger is so antimicrobial, super antimicrobial. And so I do use ginger juice quite often, just to help fend off viruses and bacteria and things like that. I'm not telling you to ignore your doctor's advice when they tell you to take something for a bacterial infection, but there are a lot of studies that show that ginger juice fights lots of different forms of bacteria.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because my wife has a lot of sinus problems and fatigue, and she
Mhm.
finds that if she does a ginger shot, it really perks her up.
Right, it's warming, it expands the vessels. Yeah, so of course it helps with blood flow and circulation and everything, circulation related.
And I could be wrong, but I think, you're talking about lowering inflammation and pain. I want to say Dr. Greger had a video, an article about ginger and athletes, and it was helping them recover and be less sore after workouts.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that too. Yeah, it helps to
Yeah.
lower inflammation because when you are working out, especially when you're working out with heavy weights, you have those micro tears. You're actually tearing the muscle and it has to be repaired. Well, it has to create inflammation and then repair that which so inflammation is not always a bad thing, but it helps with that to help with that repair to rebuild the muscles.
And a lot of people like gingerbread cookies, but I don't recommend those unless you can make them low
Right?
glycemic because
Yes. Yeah, so speaking of that, we make kefir, water kefir with ginger and lime. And if you go online and just Google a recipe, they're all made with candied ginger. And
yeah.
so you do use sugar to grow the kefir grains, to feed the kefir grains, but you can use fresh ginger. You don't want to use candied ginger because then it's been usually boiled in a sugar syrup and you don't need that much sugar.
I like that also people that are concerned about their cardiovascular health, it helps to relax your blood vessels. And I always talk about this
Mhm.
because some of the pharmaceutical drugs actually relax your blood vessels to lower your blood pressure, but there are herbs that can relax your blood vessels too, like ginger, cayenne pepper, beets. Beets are really good for this
Yes.
because I mean this is simple. The bigger the artery opens, the less your pressure goes down. It doesn't take as much pressure to go through an artery that's bigger compared to a small artery. And for a lot of people that may have some plaque, hell, I may have plaque, I don't know. So it's good to have something that can help your blood vessels relax.
Right. Right. Yes, and warming to increase circulation at the
And
same.
it helps everything. Also, I talk about circulation a lot because it's not only good for your heart, but you're hearing so much now about dementia, and one of the main forms of dementia is vascular dementia, and my father-in-law had it, and he died from it. And it's simply just another form of heart disease. Vascular dementia makes up 90%, and it's because your carotid arteries get narrow, and the blood cannot get to the brain, and the brain slowly dies. Circulation is life. Anything that you can do to keep your circulation healthy is going to help you so much.
Yes, eating anti-inflammatory foods, moving the body, and using herbs like this to help enhance. So important. Yes. Yeah, and then ginger is an herb, but it's also a food. It's so easy to add to your food. Grated ginger into any of your foods. It can go in your breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The other night I made a curry. You have curry with some ginger. You could make a spring roll, put some ginger in there. All sorts of different things. Stir fries, gingered oats for breakfast,
Hmm.
or chia pudding if you're limiting your oats.
And Dr. Schultz talked about it a lot too. I love Dr. Schultz. He's one of our teachers.
Yes, one of our favorites.
And it's in Dr. Christopher's blood circulation formula. And
Mhm.
that formula is amazing.
Mhm.
I know I told you the story about my brother-in-law. His feet were turning purple because the circulation was so bad because he's a smoker and he doesn't watch what he eats. So they asked me, I said, take this blood circulation formula. And his feet, the color of his feet came back.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. I'm like, really? And he was still smoking.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it helps with moving things, and so like last week we talked about how all disease begins in the gut. It's congested. It can be congested veins, those tightened, clogged veins, that kind of thing. And ginger helps move things along, which is the biggest thing with Schultz. Schultz said, we add ginger to warm things, bring it to wherever we need the body to be bringing healing nutrients. Ginger and cayenne, they both carry those things because they're warming, helping with circulation. Yeah. And Dr. Christopher, he had that as well, ginger for stimulation.
Yeah, I truly believe that everyone should take ginger and cayenne because it's a food and because heart disease is still no, number one killer.
Yes.
And why would we just sit here and not try to prevent it? I mean, because we know that if we don't do anything, we're probably going to die of a heart attack one day.
Right.
But there's things that
People
we
do.
can
It's number
do to
one.
prevent that.
Yeah, one number one cause of death, right? For men
Hmm.
and women. People don't think about women, but women die of sudden because they don't recognize the symptoms as much as men do. It's a little bit different. So you do have to look up that. But we didn't give a medical disclaimer, but this podcast is for educational purposes only. We are not your one-on-one coaches. We are not doctors. We do not diagnose or prescribe. So do your own due diligence. But we're talking about food too. So, adding ginger, fresh ginger into your meals, a ginger tea, put it in, like I said, all your different meals, stir fries, chia puddings, oatmeal, all sorts of things. I use ginger juice. I add ginger juice to all my juices. I like to have different juices during the week. I don't do like a full juice day, but I do like to add ginger juice to things just because it has so many benefits.
Yeah, and most of your grocery stores will have ginger root if you look in the produce department.
Yeah. Yeah. Look for a nice, clean, it looks like a hand. It looks a lot like a hand, and you want it to be nice and clean, not too fat, but pretty much like your hand when you're choosing it.
And for convenience, you can also get capsules so you can always have them on hand, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep. And you could use the powders as well. I always prefer fresh.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Yes. But we are out of time for today. If you use ginger, if you love ginger, let us know. If you don't like ginger and are looking for substitutes, we want to hear that as well. We will answer you. We love to hear from you. Connect with us. If you would like to learn more about Dan, go to danthenaturalman.com. And to learn more about me, I am at holisticgen.com. That is with a W. Once again, like, subscribe to our podcast, share it with your friends, share it with someone you know who needs to work on their circulation or heart health or inflammation, because ginger is definitely one of those herbs. Thank you for joining us this week, and we will see you again next week.